Hello and welcome to our episode number... Nah, there's no episode. This is a special spoiler cast. Welcome to my Xbox and me, by the way. I forgot the intro there. Don't worry about that. It's not important. I am MC Fixer, one of your hosts, alongside two fresh crush. 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 Crash, how are you?
I think I'm done with this podcast.
Oh, it's last episode. Last episode. Look, that was the last time I get to dance. Me and Laura don't get to dance again. That was it.
That's not true. You're going to come through next week, the week after that, and you're going to start dancing again.
Probably. More than likely.
Yeah, but
More
you might have me here backing you up on the dancing.
True. You know what? That's a good point.
It's a good point.
It'll only be one-on-one. You won't be able to outnumber with dancing.
It's true.
That's true.
And our very, very, very special guest, the one, the only, Laura Kate Dow. How are you?
That's me. Yeah,
It's
I'm
me,
doing good.
Amalia.
I got to play more of a game that I liked, and I get to talk about it again, so I'm doing good.
This is it. This is the final spoiler cast. This is it. This is it. Episode 3 is done. Tell me why it has been completed by all three of us. We all have thoughts. We all have stories. So what we're going to do in the front here is we're going to give a full rundown of the whole episode, like we've done for episode 1 and episode 2. If you're just clicking this episode, make sure you go check out those episodes first, because otherwise this one isn't going to make sense. Or skip to the time code, which Chris is going to write down for you, which is just going to be our review. Cool? Got it? Good. Guys, I got thoughts. This episode was way stronger than last week's episode. Just on the top, I thought this episode was way stronger. It didn't end where I thought it was going to end. It didn't. Some of the things didn't happen that I thought were going to happen, but all of that was good. Because it didn't go where I was expecting I hate you, like that type of spat, but no, they kind of just skipped all of that bullshit, to be honest with you.
That's what episode 2 was. They got that out the way in episode 2 was, let's get the little bit of conflict between our main characters, let's get everything. I like that very quickly they were like, okay, we had a fight, let's just get through it and deal with the conclusion of this story.
Yeah.
Episode 3 was just, let's solve a fucking mystery.
Yeah, 100%. It felt like this episode just built and built and built. I got to the end, and we'll talk about that very soon, but whether you liked it, you didn't like it, whether it was predictable or not, but it built to a point that I was intrigued. And I think that was the most important point of this episode, right, Crash?
Yes, I agree.
Good, thanks for elaborating. Really do appreciate it.
What do you want me to elaborate?
Threw you the ball there, you're like, no, thank you. Well, what are your initial thoughts on the episode? What did you think?
Overall... Oh, sorry.
You go.
go.
I liked it. I thought it was good. I agree. It did build up really well. I do think I like the fact that, especially the way it opens up, and you spend time with Allison by herself, then you spend time with Tyler by themselves, by himself, and then you get to them together. I feel like that was really well done, where it didn't feel like they went through that too quick, and they just sort of were like, we got to get the story over. You guys were fighting, but you guys are fine. You guys are twins, etc., etc. You guys just get good, you know? I liked it. I liked the pacing. I thought the pacing was really good. I don't think anything at any point in this episode felt like it lasted too long or felt out of place at all.
I agree. I totally agree.
I had some problems with this episode, but they were relatively minor in the grand scheme of things. I think that the things this episode did really well is it gave us some solo time with Allison, who honestly has been largely a supporting cast in Tyler's story for the first 2 episodes. It was nice to get some time with her and her perspective and her feelings. Particularly, it was really nice to get those early couple of scenes, I'm sure we'll get into them shortly, where she has the opportunity to start opening up to people around her about how she's feeling, about her lived experience. That was really nice. I'm glad we got that.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they took the time to... They really well paced the bringing Tyler and Allison back together. It didn't feel like they rushed to get them back on good terms, but it also didn't feel like they wasted what little time they had with episode 3 having them apart for no reason. It was a very sensible reconciliation, and I was overall quite happy with the sort of, this is what the answer to the mystery was and how they presented the end of the game. I thought it was a well-handled end cap to a good story.
Yeah, I totally agree with both of you. It was I come in to tell me why in wanting to be put in somebody else's shoes, an experience that I have never had and I won't have, and did the game succeed in that regard? I think it did this time around. This episode especially, like you said, again, seeing it from Alison's point of view was super important to the story, and it was something you don't get as much in the first 2 episodes as you do in this one, where I was like, all right, I'm gonna make these decisions whether I like these people or not based on this character and what they need. And you sort of go from there. We can sort of go through the rundown of the episode. It opens with like the book story again, which again I thought was very well done. I really enjoyed that. Then we start off with Alison. She's in quite a dark place. She's quite upset at the fact that her and Tyler have had an argument. She feels like she's been pushed a little bit too far in her comfort zone of what she actually wanted to do. And for me, the way they told that was super important, and it really mattered, the way they told it, and we'll get into the other stuff, like of how it actually impacts the character. But the opening, what did you guys think? Like, what did you think, Laura?
I really liked the opening as viewed as a look at what happens when you start unraveling stuff that you've kind of just not been dealing with mental health wise.
Yeah.
I read a lot of that introductory stuff where she's having all of these manifestations of all of her worst fears.
Yeah.
As it's that thing that, like, look, if you spend several days thinking about stuff that you've really not done the work to emotionally process, stuff that is traumatic, stuff that you have never really talked through with anyone, it can put you in the kind of headspace where you start feeling like everything is... You lose that sense of grounding, and it can be really easy to get those sort of negative thoughts and to get into negative headspace spirals. And having the whole "this is how memories manifest," like, special ability these twins have, be a way to go. Not only are you having these intrusive thoughts, but we're going to physically put them in front of you and have you see that person say terrible things to you. It's like, yeah, that's what it feels like sometimes. I thought it was a really powerful way to show where she was at and why, like, this is what she didn't want to start picking at the past, is she's like, I've not dealt with any of this stuff and it's gonna mess me up a bit.
It's been put to the back of her brain for 10 years. And I totally agree with you on the way they tell the memories. It's so important, and it feels that much more real to her because she's the only person that can see these. She's the only person going through this. Again, you know what it's like when you think back to something that someone said hurtful to you. Imagine that, but it actually plays out in front of you, in front of your eyes, right?
And it's the first time they start sowing the seeds really well in this episode about that whole thing of, there is a very fine line between something that you can imagine in your head and something that you are remembering that happened. And the line between them can be really fuzzy sometimes, and I think this was a really good setting of the scene for that.
I agree. I think the opening was really well done. I like the fact they put you through her going through a nightmare. You weren't actually playing in that part, but you saw it, and I think that builds up really well for Alison and where she is, because I feel like a lot of times in stories, be it movies or whatnot, they sort of say, oh, this character's in a depressing spot, and they just show the character sad, where this is like, they're visualizing for you in a really interesting way that I think helps you connect with the character. On top of, like, it ties into stuff that happens later on that we'll talk to, and it makes that more impactful and more understanding what happens later on in the story as well.
I think it was also a really good way, that dream sequence at the start specifically, to not have to have the character say, these are the specific things that are playing on my mind, but to show you, like, from that initial dream sequence, you can get the feeling of, oh, I'm really worried that I needlessly killed my mother. And there's a lot of different ways the symbology, the Mad Hunter messages with the text on them. It's a really good way of going, like, look, these are the conflicting things she's sort of throwing around her brain and she's trying to work through.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. I really like what they did with the whole character. We sort of move on a little bit, and there's a knock at the door after we've been through the house and we're experiencing all these bad memories. Eddie's thrown a letter under the door after thinking about bringing you breakfast, which I actually really liked. I liked the fact that he didn't go in. He wasn't intrusive. He wasn't, you know what it's like when you're concerned. I'm sure when you're concerned for someone, all you want to do is go and be like, what's wrong? Hugs. It's like, that's not always what a person needs, though. Some people need to be left alone and deal with it themselves, right? And I felt like they showed that moment very well, where it's like, I'm concerned, I've brought you breakfast, but I don't know what to do here. Okay, here's a letter under the door. Know that I care, know that I've left you breakfast downstairs, but I'm going to give you your space.
He's giving her the room to go. When you're ready, you're welcome to come to me, and I'm here to listen.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to push that on you until you're ready.
Yeah. So you sort of wander around the house. You learn a lot actually in Eddie's house, which is where Allison lives, as well as because you don't think about that really, because she's been staying at the old house with Tyler because he's got nowhere else to stay. Yeah. This is the first time you actually get to see, the second time you see a bedroom in the first episode, but you get to actually explore the whole house. So you get to go into her bedroom and like see the mess, the washing, a few other bits and bobs. You get to go downstairs into Eddie's room where you learn a little bit more about him, which is funny because it was something that I remember from last week's episode where you guys were saying that, Eddie paid for Tyler's to go to Firewood, where the game does such a great job of, if you miss that, it tells you in this, where if you go in Eddie's room, like, oh my god, I can't believe that. And I'm like, oh, that's really cool, because I didn't actually know that information. If I wasn't speaking to you guys, I wouldn't have known that information. So I thought that they did that really well.
I like that it gives you multiple opportunities to learn those same bits of character development, and it doesn't just go, you didn't find it here, you've missed it forever.
Yeah. It doesn't force you to... doesn't force you to replay the game, is the way I look at it, kind of thing, which I'm going to replay this because I want to go check out a lot of other stuff, but
I've already done so.
But yeah, so it was I thought that was very smartly done, where it was like, I know you guys already experienced it, but I hadn't. It was just like, okay, this is really smartly done and well put together. We learn a lot more about Eddie in this bedroom, really, sort of like who he is, what he was into in terms of like, he's into music and his mum wrote him a really nice letter, telling him to sort of stay true to himself and to take care of others, even those that are not like you. And that letter meant a lot to me, because I was very much on the, I don't like this character. I come around on him a little bit more in episode 2, but this episode for me really was like, you seemed like just a police officer. Like what I imagine someone who is a police officer is very by the law, is going to try and do the right thing. And there's a few other bits that we learn as well, but it was just really cool to see, I felt.
He is on the nice person end of the cop scale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a cop, he is a nice human being on the cop scale.
He doesn't seem power hungry, right?
Yeah. I also I don't know if you guys found it, but there was a letter from 2 kids' parents about how he brought them home. And I was like, oh, that's different. And I don't know if Eddie, pre what happened with Marianne, would have necessarily done that. Because it does seem like he went a little bit out of his way for that, where he's like, how much of an impact will this has? And is this something that we can sort of just like go over? Because I know these people, I know that this is something that can get handled by them instead of like involving people who shouldn't necessarily be involved with this sort of situation. And so seeing that, I think, was also really cool about that little opening bit. Yeah,
well, the letter was about the mum saying how she's so thankful that Eddie didn't report it, because you know what that can do to kids if they're put through the law at too early age, and it just sort of humanized him again for me, where it's like, okay, yeah, you are a decent human being. Did either of you open the box with the coin and all that stuff in Eddie's room? Yeah, it took me a second to figure it out, obviously, because I'm a dum-dum. But then like literally kept clicking it was like, this is a coin-operated box. I'm like, oh, there's a coin around here somewhere. Okay, no problem. Thank you, game. Thank you. I'll go find the coin and be back. And it had one of those little ornament things inside it, which we'll talk about the ornaments very soon. But yeah, that was, which I thought it did a good job with in the end. You sort of keep going around the house. There's more to that. You just sort of learn. You just keep learning and learning and learning, I feel like. Is there anything important that we miss in this house? I don't think there is, apart from like the memories, right? Is there any memories in particular you wanted to stick on before we move on?
I don't think so. I don't think anything we get is super big. I know that we find someone Claire's number, and I don't know if that ever ends up being relevant to anything. I don't think that was ever relevant to anything I found.
The memory that sticks out to me as I think like the most pertinent one is when she's up in her bedroom and she sees young Tyler being like, you abandoned me, you left me. Like, I think that's one of the ones that is most clearly like, okay, this is a thing that is very clearly on your mind at this moment. in the
Yeah.
aftermath of episode 2.
But I assumed that wasn't even a memory. I thought
no,
that was
it's not
just.
a
It's
memory,
not,
it's
yeah,
kind
but
of
it's
Okay,
yeah.
got it.
Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
the not quite memory.
The memories of not
Right.
memories.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So then, obviously, Tom stops by with Michael, and so I'm very interested how your gameplay changes here compared to mine, because I've just left. You guys have left Tessa on a good end, right? So you both you're gonna go for
Yes.
dinner, blah 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 blah. Me, on the other hand, I've left Tessa and we've had a big row. So what happened in yours? What happened at this moment?
So my read on this whole scene was, look, I'm gonna be polite, but I'm not gonna tell you about my fight with my brother because that's really not your business. And
Yep.
that's like talk to your friend about business. That's not my boss has shown up when I called in sick. I'm not inviting you in. Go away.
Yeah.
Like I was nice enough to him without opening up or letting him through the doorway. Did not want him fucking coming in.
So did they give you any stuff?
No.
Okay.
Did
So
he bring food?
No. Oh yeah, he did bring food.
Oh,
He
okay.
brought
I think I accepted the food but did not let him in.
coconut cake or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I
Yeah.
didn't get that, guys, just so we're fully aware.
Okay.
I was fired. So I'd been sacked from the shop,
Oh.
and
okay.
all of my stuff was given to me because I'm not welcome back at the shop. And Tom was explaining that hopefully Tessa will come around at some point, but I had
Oh.
been sacked.
That's so fucking different.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
No, he came to be like, hey, look. His conversation was very much like, look, of all the things you said to Tessa yesterday, none of them are things she wasn't already thinking about.
I got that as
herself.
well. I got that as well. Yeah.
All you did was you told her stuff she already knew, and like she gets it. It's all cool. Sorry you couldn't come for lunch, but she's made you coconut cake. Here you go. You're doing all right.
Okay, got ya. Yeah, no, so I got the exact same thing in terms of like everything you said to her, she already knew, but I was like, I'm really sorry that you've been fired.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I got fired. But yeah, I didn't let Tom in either. Michael sort of walks himself in. He's like, yo, I'll meet you inside. Go talk to him.
Just Michael. Michael can come.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But Tom was very much, I'll chat to you here, and then you can bugger off, mate. You sort of have a conversation with Michael for a little bit. Just depends on how you play the game is how much you open up to him. I actually didn't open up about too much because I was very much of the mind again where it was like, this is between me and my brother. I don't really need you to be in this, especially because I know you already like him. So anything I say, I don't want to impact your relationship with him that could be.
I totally understand your read there. I opened up to him totally because the impression I get is he is the one constant reliable friend I have had in this town, and I was like, look, if I can't open up to him, like possibly even more than Tyler, I was like, if there's anyone Allison would trust to go, look, I'm really emotionally spiraling and I don't know what to do about it, it's Michael. And I'm really glad that I read him correctly because his response was totally perfect to it. It was like, look, hey, it's not a problem if you need to go get mental health support like I did it. It's not a failure if you go and talk to someone. You went through some traumatic shit as a kid and you never dealt with it. And she's like, hey, yeah, but I can't really afford to go see a therapist. And he's like, you're about to sell a house. You're gonna have money. Go see a therapist. It's super okay. Also, do you want me to go talk to Tyler? I'll be a middle person. We'll bend and fix this bridge. And
interesting.
Michael's such a good friend. He was like the perfect response to I'm really struggling. He never invalidates how she's feeling or that she sounds a little bit like, admittedly, if you don't know she's got psychic powers, she sounds a little bit nuts perhaps when she describes what she's going through. He never bats an eyelid. He goes, that sounds really difficult. I'm really sorry you're going through that. Let me be here for you. And that's so good.
I also think him getting along so well with Tyler also makes him the perfect middleman in the situation where that affected it as well, where I was like, I'm fine opening up with him because like at the end of the day, he's going to be as honest as possible with everything going on. And I agree. I let him in as well. And I was like, okay, this is playing out really well, a lot better than it could have happened, where there's that bit where you have the option to tell him about the memories. And I was like, do I do this? Because like for normal people, this would absolutely make her seem crazy. And they give you this option a few times. Like you get it again with Eddie later on, where I was like, I don't know if I want to do this again because I don't want the character to seem as crazy, right?
We'll get to the Eddie stuff in a bit, yeah.
Yeah.
So mine played that again differently. I said to him not to get involved with Tyler. He said he is again a lovely character, so he's adamant that he's gonna do it anyway to just go check on Tyler. So he ends up going there anyway. But I was very much like, I'm not telling you anything because, again, I think I always bring it back to myself in terms of like when I play these characters, I'm trying to do what's best for them, but I do bring myself a little bit into them. That's the fun of doing it, right? And I'm very much a person of like, if I've got a problem, I want to deal with that problem in-house to the best of my ability. I don't want everybody knowing my business. Even my friends, like even my best of friends IRL, it's like they don't know everything that I've been through. They know a lot of it, but not everything. And that's sort of how I played it here with Alison and Michael, where I was like, you're a good guy, and clearly it worked out for me because he still went and done the right thing in the end. But I was still a little bit shut off as I was emotionally still a little bit damaged between what was going on.
I very much agree. I was playing the character like, look, she's not going to open about this to just anyone. She's not going to go blabbing across town to it. Like, she didn't tell Tom she'd been in a fight. She didn't tell Sam later she'd been in a fight with Tyler. Michael felt like the exception, and I think my reading on it was like, look, Tyler might be Alison's brother. They've been back in each other's lives for maybe 2 or 3 days.
Yeah,
like it's not like this is someone that I'm intimately familiar with, and we are on great terms right now, and that I'm gossiping about it to someone that I have a less close relationship with. It's like, look, I'm trying to build something big and I don't know what to do and I'm spiraling. Best friend, please give me some support because I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I'm glad it panned out, but I understand making different choices on that.
Fair enough. We move on. Yeah. You get some flashbacks at this point, but then we move on to go in to meet Dee for lunch at the police station. We have to drop off some letters to Eddie, and as you sort of go through the police station, you speak to Dee real quick. Go up to the police station. He's already talking to someone, and it seems like he's in a badish mood, but it feels like maybe I felt more like he was just at work. You know, when like you have your work voice on, that was kind of where he was at. It's like, so you don't knock on the door or anything, you just leave the letter. And I very much played it as, I'm going upstairs, I'm doing this, I'm coming back downstairs. Nobody get upset. Please leave me alone.
I'm curious in this case, did you catch what they did to the archives room upstairs?
No.
No, I didn't.
They completely changed the security system. So instead of being 4 buttons with a static code that never changes, now you have to email the chief of police who will send you a one-time use code for 10 minutes. Like,
wow.
they have to change the whole fucking security system because of what you did in episode 2.
Wow.
That's really cool. This
is a nice detail of like, we did expose
it's different.
Yeah.
Did you guys notice who was in the room with Chief?
Well, they tell you who's in there, right?
Yeah, but it's the guy from the marketplace and the guy you see on the boat earlier in the episode.
No, is it really?
Yeah, it's him. Yeah.
Wait, how did you see that?
Because if you pay attention when they're having conversation in the marketplace, they talk about him hunting something that's not in season because he hunts the bear, and that's what they're talking about in the police chief's office. I could be wrong about that, but that's how I thought it was. I'm pretty sure it is him. Yeah, and that crossed somebody off my list. Yeah.
So that was somebody off your list at that point. Yeah. That's really interesting. That's really cool. But yeah, I knew I should have stayed and listened more and looked around a bit more. But I was like, if someone comes up here and sees me, and they already said like, what's his name, or was it D that said? No, D says,
don't be too
long up there, obviously. And it's like, oh, okay, well, there you go.
There was a bunch of that when you were walking around. Like if you try and walk into the reception desk, she's like, not allowed in there anymore. We've had to change our policies slightly.
Yeah. So you go downstairs again. Dee's still working. So you go in to eat some cobbler or whatever it is. What do we know? Does anyone know what
crumble? It's like
is it crumble?
Like fruit crumble.
Oh, cobbler's crumble. Okay. Again, that's an American English thing. I just didn't know. Got ya. I love crumble. I should have stayed there longer and ate more. Especially if it was apple. It weren't. It definitely weren't apple. But so you go down there and you end up talking to Officer Greggs. Officer Greggs, with his haircut and his big head, and you get into a conversation of just life, the prison, who she is, who she was, he's a little bit. I didn't like him, if I'm honest with you.
Oh, he's a jerk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought his conversation was great though.
Okay.
I really liked the conversation with him because the whole time he thinks he's trying to make Allison feel better. He's displacing a lot of the blame onto Tyler.
Yep.
Without realizing that, like, the very things that he's saying is, it's like, no, I was involved in that. I was doing that. I feel guilt. I'm the one that killed Mum. I'm the bad influence. I'm the bad half of the twin.
Yeah.
And the more he's pushing to try and be like, no, it's not you, it's Tyler, the worse she's feeling. And I thought that was such a good, like, missed intentions conversation.
Yeah. No, it was.
Yeah.
It was very well done, right? Where, like you just said, it's all of the things. You feel for her as the conversation's going on, and he sort of gets a little bit closer, and he starts talking more, and he's trying to be like, "I'm here for you" type situation, and she's just like, "Oh my god, this is getting worse and worse and worse and worse."
Yeah, he's just not listening when she says, "Please back off and don't touch me and don't keep going on about this point." He's not respecting her boundaries.
Yeah, no, 100%. He goes on about his diet and some other stuff. No, there's a bunch of non-important things in this conversation as well as. And then obviously there's the big moment of when she has the... Before that, you have a couple of mini panic attacks. As someone who's had a panic attack, who's someone who has been through this, I knew exactly what it was instantly as it was happening. So she has a couple of mini ones, and then obviously... as it's building and building and building, it gets to a point. Dee comes in, they have that conversation about lunch not happening before that because she's got to carry on working. Then they have the conversation with Greg's, and then she ends up having a full-on panic attack outside the police station. My big thing of this is, how do you guys feel about like gamifying a panic attack and the breathing?
I don't mind it because I've used apps like the one she was using there. I have apps on my phone that have purposes that are like, hey, here is just a thing to remind you to breathe in and out at a pace.
Yeah.
Or, I've got an app that is entirely about like distractions to be like, look, roughly how long do you need? We're gonna have things that'll just take your mind off this for a minute. And I can get why for some people it's gamification of a struggling moment, but I like that they focused on the gamifying the returning to a normal state rather than the panic attack itself. It reminded me of there's a game called Celeste, which is a 2D platformer about climbing a mountain that did something very similar, where it gamified a feather rising up and falling down in time with like breathing deeply. I don't mind that as a gameplay mechanic. I thought it was I liked that scene because what it told me was, she knows that she's prone to panic attacks enough that she has an app ready on her phone for this situation. This isn't unexpected. I thought it was a good bit of characterizing.
Yeah, I liked the whole scene. I didn't like planning it out personally. For me, I just I didn't need it. It would have been just maybe even more so, more impactful if we could have just seen it play out instead of actually just pushing A. And I understood it as someone who again has been there, has done it. I understand why they did it, but
I wonder if it's one of those things that plays better for people who haven't had panic attacks and for whom this is a novel experience. It might be one of those things that it feels different to gamify because it's your own experience.
I think again, I put myself so much in these scenarios as well, where I'm like, I
don't need somebody to tell me how this is. How I
know how to experience this. I've done it. I've done the trying to just having the breakdown and just not being able to the moment she can't catch her breath, and you're like, oh gosh, I've been there. And like you generally do think you're gonna die. It's like, oh my god, I can't breathe. It's horrible. It's horrible, but it wasn't done in a bad way. I just wish I didn't have to do it. But again, putting the player in an uncomfortable position isn't always a bad thing either, because it helps you feel a little bit more sometimes. So
yeah, you also don't. It's not a long part as well, which is like
interesting. I felt like it was long. 5.
Oh, I didn't feel it was long.
I didn't think it needed to be 5.
That's me either.
3 would have been fine.
Yeah, and I think that was also part of why I didn't like it as well, which was like, it was just that bit too long for me. That I'm like,
I kind of agree with you. I think it could have been trimmed down and it would have still had the same effect.
Yeah, I agree. Chris, did you enjoy this whole moment? Did it Have you had a panic attack? So did this?
I have had panic attacks.
Got ya. You haven't got.
I didn't think it was.
You ain't got to tell me anything that you don't want to, by the way, on this show.
I know. I didn't think it was intrusive or anything like that. I just thought like, okay. I just thought this is how they show having a panic attack. I don't really think about how somebody who hasn't had a panic attack would understand this. But saying that, it makes sense that they need that sort of for someone who hasn't had it to get it.
Yeah.
I thought it was fine. I don't think it was super intrusive or anything like that.
Fair enough. Eddie turns up which weird. Eddie was upstairs. So what has he done? He's come downstairs to look at the front door. Where was you, Eddie? Hold up a minute.
Come down for a smoke or something. He's got that side staircase down that we went up previously.
All right, fine.
He could have gone down the stairs and saw you sitting up there. You know, that's possible.
Sure. If that's what you want to go with, cool. You guys keep talking, 'cause I've got to quickly shut my window.
Okay.
The next bit was talking about Eddie, which was going on with him. So you can move on from there.
Okay. We have the conversation with Eddie, and you have the option. It's a pretty long conversation, and it really is you opening up to Eddie.
Yeah. The crux of it is, do you want to tell Eddie that you killed your mum?
Yeah. I didn't.
I'm curious. Did you tell Eddie about you killing the mum, Fix?
I did. Yes. I
did as well.
Yeah. Because I felt again. I very much of what you were saying beforehand with Michael was like Eddie is her constant in her whole life since Tyler's been gone. So for me, again, I was like, she needs to get this off her chest. As someone. I've got my fiance, and that's who I tell everything to, right? Just saying it sometimes relieves everything.
Yeah, that's it. It's getting rid of the secret that you have from the one person that otherwise you share everything with.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of there was that bit in the back of my mind that went, I know that on paper it's probably a terrible idea to tell a cop that I did a bunch that someone else went down for, but my thinking was, look, he's had a decade of being essentially my dad to get to know me, and I can probably get some leeway here that he's not going to feel the need to do anything about this.
Yeah.
B, Tyler went down for a decade for this crime already. My assumption was he's not going to feel the need to send me away because someone has paid for this crime. It was a crime of self-defense. Does it really matter which of us did it? One of us paid for the sin. At this point, I think he likes Allison enough that he will be supportive rather than fuck, I have to report this.
Look, you know what it's like when someone does something stupid and you're like, God, I've got to help you with this situation that I don't want to help you with, but I have to. I love you too much to do the opposite. And I feel like that was very much the scenario he's in this moment.
I think the situation's very different from, say, a decade ago when he pushed Tyler to juvie and did not fight to, keep him out of there, that he didn't have a personal relationship so much with these kids at the time. He did everything regarding Tyler by the book and by the way that the cop said that it should be done, because Tyler was a face that was like, yeah, I'm aware of you. Allison is a very different situation. They've lived together. They know each other. They are close enough that I thought he's probably going to make a different decision this time. He probably isn't going to buy the book the way he did a decade ago.
So,
and I'm glad I opened up.
Yeah, me too, 100%. So, Chris, curious to what happened with you, because that wasn't our experience.
I didn't open up with him. I just decided to be like, yeah, no, you have the option to tell him like I killed my mom, or like I can't get over this, and I chose that option. And I kind of chose it because I was like, I don't need to put this on Eddie. I don't need Eddie to know this. This is something that Allison has to deal with, not really necessarily Eddie. And I already opened up to Michael, and I still have Tyler. I felt like she had enough avenues of people to speak to that Eddie necessarily didn't need to be brought in on this.
Okay.
And the conversation just basically plays like, I'm here if you need me, you know. I grew up not needing mental help and everything. Like the way I was brought up, it wasn't something we looked upon and everything. But if you need that, I'm here for you, and that's something that we can work through. If you need anything, come to me. So you still feel the support from him, even if you don't open up to him in that way.
The reason I'm so glad that I opened up to him is less to do even with his response than Allison's, because you can see on her face it is such a relief to just get this off her chest. And Eddie's response is just, it's really lovely. It is basically, I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. You were a child. I'm so sorry you were put in that situation, and I'm so sorry you've had to spend a decade living with this quiet knowledge held close to you. Like, look, Tyler, for all the stuff he had to go through in the last decade, he had mental health support there. He had people helping him work through it. I'm sorry you've had to kind of burden this alone. And
yeah, it was nice. It was a nice moment, I felt like, between the two characters, where I was like, in those moments you can really see how much Eddie cares about her and how much she cares about Eddie, where it's like, you know, it's like being vulnerable with anybody, right? It's so important. So yeah, I feel like this showed that.
And I also feel like by the end of that conversation, I felt like he had a lot more respect for Tyler by the end of that conversation, because he has this realization of, oh, Tyler isn't this monstrous kid I've assumed he was for the last decade. He took the fall for you because he was worried that you'd self-defense killed her because of his actions.
Yeah.
He took the fall for you for a decade. I've got some respect for that kid. I feel like it helped Eddie to understand Tyler better.
Got ya. We move on to like a little bit of a question of like, yo, who's my dad at this point?
Yeah.
Do you know who my dad is? Pretty much of like, is Sam my dad? And the conversation sort of goes like, he's not sure, he doesn't know any more information. It's like, hey, go talk to Sam. Like, if you want to know this information, go and talk to Sam. They were very close. He sort of just alludes to the fact of like, they were very close, but we don't know. So Alison sort of does that. She takes herself to the boatyard where Sam's working and sort of speaks to him, confronts him. You do this weird thing with the bottles, which was, I was like, okay. Because it doesn't tell you to pick anything up as you're going around the boatyard.
It does eventually. If you try talking to him enough, he'll be like, oh, I need to finish fixing this engine up. Can you go find me the oil for the nuts? It's in a red bottle.
So I didn't get that. It was, I picked up a bottle, tried to take it to him, and then it was like, no, not that bottle. So picked up another bottle. No, not that bottle. I'm like, and it's in the cupboard.
He tells you what he's looking
for.
Got ya.
That's interesting.
On a second playthrough, I left it too long. I didn't I was like, what happens if I don't? And he cut his hand open, and I had to go get gauze for him instead.
That's what I got. Because I went through. I got the one bottle, gave it to him. It was so I went through and I went around and like interacted with everything in the place, and I was going everywhere. And by the time I found the bottle and gave it to him, he's like, oh, this isn't the right one, and then he gets hurt. So I thought me giving him the wrong one triggered him getting hurt.
No,
not that it was a time
thing.
Maybe, I don't know. I know that those are two ways out of that scene.
Got it. So yeah, you find, so what we learn in this place is obviously his love for boats. We learn, before we go upstairs, we learn he's up to his eyeballs in debt. He's struggling a lot. We learned that I've liked Sam from the start, and I don't mean like everything that he's done, obviously, but I've been very much, of the three of us, I feel like I've been the one that was very much like, I feel like he might be a little bit more misunderstood. And as this has gone on, I've been like, I was right. He has his own problems, and he's still a decent human being in the end, which I found. But yeah, so you do all this, then you give him the bottle, he fixes the boat piece, then he takes you upstairs, right?
Yeah.
From there, you sort of, again, you're nosy, you start looking around, you learn a lot more about him because you're in his apartment. Number one, he's a messy guy. Number two, he doesn't wash his dishes. But then the important stuff, such as he was obviously a captain of a boat, risked his life for his whole crew. Which that was one of those moments where I was like, I knew he was a good person. I knew. Or I say good person, just because you do something nice doesn't make you a good person. But I still felt like there was a good vibe there, and he was still just trying to traverse with Tyler that first time. It was, you're going to come into my house with a shotgun. That's not a great first impression. But he was concerned. I feel like in the second episode, you see him come back. He's tried to do his due diligence. I feel like even if that's not right, which we got into last week. Go on, Laura.
I will say, I don't know that concerned is the right word necessarily for him turning up with the shotgun at the first viewing of the house. Possessiveness was more what I
Okay,
got out of that.
yeah. Okay,
'Cause,
I
like,
meant
a lot of
Because
because a lot of what we learn in this room again centers around he's depressed and real sad and hung up on a girl who died a decade ago who
Yep.
he wanted to marry and she didn't want to marry him and
Yep.
yeah,
like his turning up to that house with a shotgun I think is more don't you dare fucking touch that house of my dead girlfriend who was never my girlfriend from a decade
yeah,
ago.
the house really seemed for him like the last connection
It
to
was.
Marianne.
Yeah.
It's don't take away the last place I can go and feel like she's still around, which I get
Yeah.
it. He's sad and depressed and he's fixating on someone who's long gone and it's real sad. Like
Yeah.
I don't want it to seem like I think he's a bad person. I think that he's a person struggling with substance abuse and depression who's got a fixated point that he's like, if I can keep this, then everything's fine.
Yeah.
And that thing's going away and he doesn't know how to deal with it.
But we get one important item here after we go through the box of things that he wants to show us, which is like it seemed to be a date they went on, which he fell asleep at. Then you've got the birthday card where they're just being friendly, and then you've got the photos, and then obviously you get the important photo that he gives you, which is a photo of the barn, which then shows you that there's a attic or a loft or whatever you guys they call it in there. What do they call it in this? An attic, right? Or
They call
I
it
think-
loftiness.
they call it a loft
Oh,
in
okay.
this.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, a loft upstairs, which
A room
if
in the ceiling.
the ceiling, there's
Yeah.
something up there, okay? Which I thought was really cool because it was the case of like, all right, we're reusing assets in the game, we're not making new environments, cool, but it's been there the whole time and we just didn't see it.
Yeah.
And like that's really fun for me to go back and go, wow, I wonder what's up there. What could be up there? I'm thinking there's dead bodies. I'm thinking all sorts of things. Like, how crazy actually was she? Blah, 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 blah. Or what we actually get is something different. But I just felt like that whole moment with Sam was done really well for me, where it explained a lot about him and his characteristics.
I will say, I'm curious if either of you played this out differently, because I've gone through it twice and I've seen two different ways you can play that Sam scene out. You can be really, really like aggressive at him about his substance abuse problem. And I'm curious if either of you did that, because you can just
No.
get like you have a real serious problem and you need to fucking get on it.
Oh wow, no, I didn't do that. No.
Yeah, no.
I did not on my first attempt, but someone told me that was a thing that could happen and I went and looked it out and
Yeah.
you can be like real tough love about it and be like, you have a serious problem and me not selling this house isn't going to fix the things that are making you sad.
Got ya. Huh, that would have been interesting to
Yeah.
play out. Huh.
That is a thing worth keeping an eye out for if you replay it.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I'll do that. We go from the boatyard onto where am I? Onto the boatyard
I think we
to
go to the fishing, the ice fishing.
Yeah, it's the ice fishing.
onto
with,
Tyler. We move over,
and
so
Michael.
we get the whole character perspective has changed now. So we've moved on to Tyler. Tyler's having a problem of his own at that moment in time. I wouldn't say it was a full-on panic attack or anything like that, but it seemed he was dealing with something.
He's trying to recall that memory of who their dad is by himself because he realizes he's fucked up and he
Yeah.
can't put it on Allison. So he's like, can I, if I really, really, really try, can I do this alone so she doesn't have to?
Got you. That's
I
what he
think
was
that's what he's
doing.
going through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
I-
That makes sense.
I kind of got that. I wish they had done a better way to like get us to feel that, and I don't entirely know how they would have done that. But I sort of understood it because if you've ever had a moment where you try remembering something and you can't, and you just keep thinking on it, it is one of the most annoying feelings. So it's probably that times 10, 20,
Yeah.
a lot worse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like if it's physically manifested, it's like I can practically see it. Just a
Yeah.
tiny bit more detail. Turn the resolution up just a bit.
Yeah.
Should have bought a 4K monitor. Yeah, and so Michael turns up and they have a little moment here, a romantic moment where Michael's like, hey, what's wrong? He's like, it sort of comes across like I need to get my mind off of things. Michael's there like, hey, how about we fish? And he's like, what, here on the lake? And he's like, yeah, why not? I've got the stuff with me, sort of thing, which I felt was like a kind of nice moment, which was nice. Go on.
I really like the way this plays out if you, as Allison, are open to Michael about what's going on. Because when he comes up to Tyler, he's basically like, look, cards on the table. Your sister has talked to me. I know some of what's going on. I'm not going to bring that to you. You can tell me your side, and I'm not going to take sides. I will just let you talk. So, like,
Yeah.
don't stress about the fact that I've talked to your sister. I'm here to. I was there to support her. Now I'm here to support you.
Yeah.
And I
And
really liked how he walked that line.
yeah, and he was like, "I'm not snitching or anything like that."
Yeah,
It's
I
like
got that
it's
part.
very much so. I am here for you solely, which I agree. I really thought that was really good. I think in general the way they wrote Michael's interaction with both twins was just really really good and a really good supportive character.
Michael's the secret best character of this whole series. Michael's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, he is great.
Agreed.
He is a great character. They fish for a bit. You have a little fishing mini game sort of thing that you do here. Pretty standard stuff. You open up a little bit, and I did open up with Tyler actually to Michael, because it was a case of this was, other than your sister, you kind of don't have any friends. You have no other family. You have no friends. It's like this person, this guy likes you, so why not open it up a little bit? You'll find out very quickly if it scares him away. So why not just put it out there?
I like that Michael opens up in response, that it's not a one-way thing, that you get to learn more about him as well. Like, the more open you are, the more open he seems to be back, which is lovely.
So what did he actually say to you, for instance? What did Michael open up about?
I'm trying to remember now.
I know it's just basic stuff, like he does sort of go through a few little bits. But yeah, you're 100% right though, with like Michael being the best character. He probably is the best character of this whole game, which is dope. The big question: did you kiss? Yes or no?
Oh, of course.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, we all kiss. Good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know. Yeah, it was. I was in two minds of it though. I
will say, at the end of the episode, I was very happy to see that 69% of people kissed him. I was like, yeah.
Yeah, no, it was 69. But yeah, it was, for me, I was very much like, maybe we should take this a little bit slower. But I was like, you know what? I just need some good moment right now, so let's just have it.
It felt like the right choice to make at that moment with the way everything was progressing. Like, I don't know, you guys had the romantic relationships talk with him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so it felt like a natural progression of where that conversation was, and all the choices you make before that, it just for me felt like a natural progression. Like, yeah, I'll make a move.
That conversation that Michael has immediately prior about like the whole conversation of how do you know when you're ready to like open up to someone and to trust someone in that way. That felt like, oh, if there's ever a moment to make a move, this is it. The sun is setting. You've talked about your relationship feelings. Do a bit of a smooch.
I felt like that was, you'd know better than myself, but it would seem like it was handled really, really well in terms of like, I've not been with anybody. Is there a difference of being with somebody after going through the transition? Is there any difference in relationship, in love, in anything like that? Or was this, is it, do you know what I mean by that? I'm not,
I know what you mean. I'll say this. It's really nice to see a relationship between two people who, as far as we can tell, are both exclusively same-sex attracted.
Yeah.
Where the fact that one of them is trans is not made a big deal at all.
Yes.
Really lovely. That is so rare in media that it's not even a conversation. It's like, yeah, of course this gay man finds this other gay man hot.
Attractive. There's nothing.
The fact that one of them is a trans man doesn't make a fucking difference. And
got ya.
Like, the fact that it was made such not a deal that Michael never at any point brings up Tyler's trans status. It is never something that he ever acknowledges. That's what made it feel really special, was just, it's not even a conversation. They're getting on well. They like each other. They both find each other attractive. Why wouldn't they?
Exactly. The funny thing is, and I'll bring it up again later on during our review, I feel like, but it's the fact of, for a game that I feel like we all spoke about this game very much of like, we're finally seeing a trans main character and we're going to see the way that plays out. The game isn't very over there. It doesn't feel like it's trans, in my opinion. Again, I can only talk from my perspective. It doesn't feel like it's like that the way you play it through. At the early stage, it's those moments, so all as awkward encounters, but it doesn't feel like it through the whole story arc. I don't think.
The moments of this game that felt most special to me as moments of trans representation are the moments where the trans status is just not acknowledged.
Gaia.
Like, I understand the groundwork they have to do to get there, but I'm so happy that moments like this at the end, it doesn't need to be text. It
Yeah.
can be subtext that exists within the scene without having to go like. I was bracing for like at some point they were gonna have their kiss and then Tyler was gonna say something awkward like, "Ah, have you ever kissed a trans man before?
Got
Was
ya,
that
yeah,
different?"
yeah.
Like that they were gonna make it a thing, and
Yeah.
the fact that it just was
Not at
nothing
all.
was wonderful.
Yeah.
It was lovely.
Got you. So yeah, you have that romantic moment. You come back to the house. Allison is now there, and this is sort of where they have their moment together. Allison obviously has this information about the barn. Michael decides he's going to leave and let them talk out their problems, sort of thing. They sort of have a little moment, brother and sister moment, where it's like, all right, you were being dumb, I was being dumb. Let's hug it out, sort of. And let's carry on with our journey and finish up what we've started here. Allison tells Tyler that there's the attic loft, whatever they call it in this, in the barn, and let's go check it out. So they go and do that straight away. I didn't see the handle in the photo, so I'm like walking around, going to grab the ladder straight away. I'm like, oh yeah, we'll just jimmy that open. It won't be a problem. And I'm like,
yeah, I was similarly wondering why won't you let me take the ladder? I know
Yeah.
where the hatch is. I'll just push it up.
So I didn't find the ladder. I just went to exploring the barn again to see if there was anything new. And the first place I went was to like that corner, and a prompt popped up, and I was like, "Oh, cool! I didn't even notice that."
In the photo, that's already visible, and
Yeah.
you're supposed
Yeah.
to look at the photo and then go there.
well, that's what happened with me. She's like, do you want to look at the
Yeah.
photo? Do you want to look at the photo? I'm like, shut up. I've seen the photo. I know where the
don't want-
hatch is.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I ended up getting there in the end. And you go upstairs, and this is a very interesting moment. Obviously, you're building to this moment of what is up there. What is up there?
Yeah.
What could it be? And it's...
Whose severed head is in the box?
Exactly. Is where are all the dead bodies? No, none of that. It's just a retelling of a story in the bar. It's her. We find out more at the end, but it's very much you're seeing Marianne's story.
It's
Yeah.
the whole thing we've had through episodes 2 and then parts of episode 3. It's humanizing of a character who was presented to you as very one-dimensional early on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you automatically go through. You see all the walls, which are all interactive, and they're all puzzles. Quick question. So you've got the 3 main puzzles, right?
Yeah.
Was the other 2 on the? I think there might be another 2 on the floor.
There's 4 more.
There's 4.
I didn't
around.
interact with them, and I didn't realize it till afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah.
None of the things in there are terribly important, but they're nice little bits of detail.
Okay.
We can probably just jump straight to them because they're not particularly time sensitive.
Sure.
One of them is a letter from Eddie's mother to Marianne, thanking her for basically looking after Eddie's mother while she was in end of life care, and being like, "Look, I'm dying. Can you look after Eddie after I'm gone? He's sweet, but he's, sometimes a little too, overly attached."
Yeah.
Basically, like, painting Marianne as at some point in the past of having been like quite a pillar of the community, trying to help other people, be supportive, looking after people outside of her own family.
Yeah.
It's a nice bit of like humanizing for her. One of them is a drawing of Marianne that Tyler had done as a child that Tyler says something to the effect of, she always said this was her favorite picture and it vanished and I never knew where it went. And it's like, oh, she kept it safe up here. One of them is an application. Oh, this is the most interesting one, I think, is an application to open a business in the town. Where Tessa was going to front up the money so that Marianne could operate a crafts and jewelry business in town, and there was a whole business plan.
Yeah.
Tessa was using her fact that she has a business as collateral to get a $20,000 loan, reckoned by the second year they'd be turning a profit, and was gonna try and like help Marianne like have her own business, her own little bit of industry in the town. It's a really nice bit of. Tessa was really fucking invested in trying to help Marianne be stable and do something with her life, and it gives some nice context to why it must have been such a hard choice for Tessa to call child services.
Make the phone call,
she
yeah.
clearly tried to do a lot of things over the years to try and help Marianne. I
Yeah.
can't remember what the other thing is. What the fourth one is.
There was one from Sam, wasn't there?
Oh yes, it was Sam being like, "Hey, I I love you, but I understand that's not how you feel, and
Yeah.
I'm more than happy to just be friends. And if you're still okay with us like saying hi when we see each other in the street, that would be lovely. I won't pressure you into anything else, but just thank you for, not pushing me out of your life entirely, for
Yeah.
being interested in you.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then there was the PS about the car, how something was wrong with your car. You need to go take it to the
Oh,
mechanic, and if
yeah.
you want, I can come with you because they always try and cheat you out of money and all that.
Yeah, it's the like, hey, even though you're not romantically interested in me, I still want to do all the nice, like, looking after you things that I've been trying to do. I'm
Yeah.
not going to stop doing that because you're not interested in me.
Got
Yeah.
ya. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's
That's
just nice little bits of fleshing out.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. So then you have the first puzzle, which is it's a story that's already in the book, but it has a
Yeah.
different it has a different title, and it has different imageries on it. So you have to interact with that and sort of do the spot the difference with it. Which I got all of them, but not the title. And I'm like, stand there
The
like,
title took me
I've
off.
got them all. What? And then the game's like, oh, the title's different, and I sort of look up, and it's like, oh my god, I could have clicked that the whole time. Inside of the first one, you have. Does anyone remember what's actually inside there?
There's photographs of Marianne previously being a ballet dancer.
Yeah,
You
that's the
get,
one.
like,
Yeah.
she's got an overbearing mother who you can see in some of the photographs is like watching over her and expecting her to be very perfect.
Trophies. There's trophies in there as well.
There's a letter from university. She wanted to stop doing engineering and start doing fine arts instead, and she never had the confidence to make that switch, presumably because she felt she should stick doing the thing her mother wanted her to do and not what she wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I think there's also a letter in there from her romantic partner she had in university, who's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
look, this isn't going to work out, not because of you, but because your mother is a
Yeah.
problem. She is overbearing, and she clearly does not want me in your life, and I kind of have to back off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You also kind of get the sense of like she actually come from money. That she
Yeah.
actually had the that was one of those moments where I'm like, God, money goes everywhere. Like, what the hell's going on here? But yeah, with the ballet and all of that, and it was one of those moments where I was like, wow, she just had to escape from the clutches of her mum, who is super overbearing.
It seems like it was a case of, look, parents have got money, but they are trying to control every aspect of my life, and like, I cannot live my own life. I just want to get out and start fresh and do something for me.
Don't matter how much money you got if you're gonna have overbearing parents, right? And yeah, that's sort of where all this comes from. So then you move on to the second puzzle. Go on, Crash. Did you have something to add there?
I was just gonna say I really like that they put in there that she was an engineering major, because that explains a lot of like the locks and stuff she made. Because
Yeah.
otherwise it would just be a little bit out of place.
Oh,
or
yeah,
it's just
good
like a
point.
nice touch up on it. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like that whole loft area would have been like, how would she have done it, and how would she have done it without any help?
It explains little things like in episode 1 when we open her bedroom, and clearly opening her bedroom activates a battery-powered light that turns.
Yeah.
Just little things that she's clearly set up to make her world a bit more magical.
God, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I broke that door down, so I didn't notice any of that. Yeah, so then we move on to the second puzzle. This one was very much just sort of matching up the story of what you've just seen. So each puzzle you're matching to the next puzzle of what's been in the box. So this one you match
It's things that the mother did that were controlling. So like getting rid of my pet bird, and not letting me switch majors, and scaring away romantic partner, and forcing me to do dancing, I think it was.
I think so, something like that. The last one I literally just went, nope, yep, perfect. Keep moving. And inside this one you had the what's in there?
The letter
from go on.
Was it the letter from the father?
Yes.
Or was that in the last one?
No, this one. So you have the letter from the father. You have the picture of her and Sam and Sam's partner, I think.
Yeah.
Having dinner. You have the house that she ends up getting, and you have there's one
the
more.
postcard from the hippie commune.
And the postcard, yeah.
Yeah, and the letter from when she worked at the clock
the watch stuff that she's doing. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It sort of tells the story of sorry, go on, carry on.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
It sort of tells the story of like where she went after she got away, right? It was like She did so the order. I'm trying to think of the order it was actually
she
in.
went to the hippie commune first, just
Yeah.
because it was somewhere she could get away, didn't need money. Moves to go work in the watch factory. Eventually moves to the house and makes the new friends, and that all happens. I think the most interesting thing in this cupboard is the letter
Yes.
from the father, because obviously, like, it explains how quickly she estranged herself and was like, no turning back. I am out and I am gone.
Yeah.
Because like the whole point of the letter is her dad being very snooty about, oh, your mother died, you weren't here at the funeral. But it also mentions her having a child, singular, and
Yeah.
I like that when you first read that, it's unclear whether A, the dad just didn't know it was twins because being
He's so out of the
estranged.
life. Yeah.
Yeah. Or is this a different child? I like the ambiguity in how it's written.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. This letter was super powerful for me as someone that, again, been through my ups and downs in my own life of like, yeah, I could totally imagine just running away and being like, see ya, I'm just gonna do me now. It's like it was a powerful letter, and all of the things in there were super powerful. It's like, again, trying to buy a house, and she achieved that, and meeting new friends, she achieved that. It's like all the things that she went on to do without the help of the people that she actually needed.
This is the cubby that, like, in hindsight, I find the most heartbreaking, because she managed it. She got away from home and she built that new life, and it was all going so perfect.
Yeah.
And it's a real gut wrencher when you realize where it's going.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually, like, when I was reading the letter from the father, at first I thought it was gonna be the father being repentful. But the more you read it and the more it's like, oh no, he's just trying to shove this in the daughter's face. And like how he sort of hints at like, oh, you're the reason this happened to your mother. You caused her depression and all this. And it's like, oh no, you're not a nice person either, you know? Yeah.
Your cousin's here, and they brought the photos along, and you're in each of the photos, but you're not here now. And it's like, look, things happen, and you're gonna. I've been around so many people that have done the whole, if you don't go to the funeral, you're gonna regret it for the rest of your life, and it's like, some people don't. Some people won't regret it, and some people need to just live with their decisions at the end of the day. And I feel like that's what Marianne was doing. She'd gotten away. She wasn't going back.
Yeah.
She wasn't going back, no matter what. So then the last puzzle, which is, we told you how to do it, but it opens up and there's photos inside, right? If I'm not mistaken.
It's a letter. It's the story in there.
You're right. Yes.
Yeah.
The story that she was reading to Tyler and Allison the night that she died.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of little tweaks in there, and it's an expanded version of the story, but the long and short of it is, it's that story about the princess having to bury the tiara, but the more you read of it, it becomes very clear it's a kid.
Yeah.
She had to bury her child. It very much sounds like the kid died of something like sudden infant death syndrome, which is literally just no warning. Sometimes a child will just stop breathing, and there's nothing you can do to be aware of it. It just happens sometimes, and it's tragic. And like, I think we'd all had our guesses of like, hey, so the burying of the tiara is clearly a traumatic event for the mum. Like, I think I'd guessed it was the wedding ring after she broke up with who her husband was or something. But yeah, I did not anticipate. Yeah, she had to bury her kid under the tree in the garden.
Yeah, I think that was the really important part, where you get once you go through this puzzle, you go on to the next one where you get the photos and you see you
also realizing that the code on the box was the kid's name, and that's where it
hit me. Shit, you just opened my mind. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah. That's why what the order of the letters is. The kid's name is Leo.
Yeah.
Mind blown.
Yeah, no, that whole thing was really, it makes you go back, and if you think back, or if even next time you replay it, you go back through the events, and every time a tiara is mentioned, you replace it with a child or a baby, and it's like, it adds a whole new meaning to everything that happened, and that's just like brilliant writing right there, right?
Yeah. And it instantly, before we even get to anything else, it recontextualized so much about that night that she died, because obviously, like, why did she read that story to the kids on that night? Because she knew social services were coming, and she was fixating on, God, I lost a kid once before. And it puts so much additional context on, like, what must it have been like for her to know, hey, you lost a child once, you're about to lose these two as well.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it was one of those moments where I was just like, oh man, I feel so much for this character. I feel so much. I was so wrong. I painted you in such a light a way in my head that I was like, you weren't crazy. You were just going through some trauma, and a lot of it. Like, I can only imagine what it's like to lose a kid and then have your other two kids be ripped from your hands, which that's how she would have been feeling at the time, which is like, they're coming to take my kids. Like, I will have nobody. All I have is these kids. And I try and give them the best life that I possibly can. And they're going to just take that away.
I can't be separated from my children again. I can't go back to being alone again. I can't start from scratch again.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, if anything, this is probably worse. It is more than one child, and she's had time to grow up and get to know them as individuals, and she's built her whole house around this shared story she's got with them. It is heartbreaking to have this sort of proper context for just how bad it would have been for her to lose those kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should... Again, I want to... We can do it in the random. It's fine. We'll keep moving. Yeah, so you get the photos, and there's one of Leo, there's one of the tree where Leo is buried, and there's one more, but I don't remember where it was.
Isn't there a letter to the two of them?
That's what it is. It's the letter.
That said, I'm sorry I didn't share the beginning of my story with you sooner.
Yeah.
Also important, she wrote to Ollie in that.
Yes.
And not... Yeah.
Which again proves that she was aware of what was going on and was trying to be respectful.
Yeah. Which was really nice. They literally get all that information. They're like, all right, well, we know what to do. We've got to go back down to the dock where this is all started, where the game very much centers around not going. If it just in my mind, it's stuck in where it's like, don't go down to that dock that first episode. It was nice, like, to come back around. Did either of you guys go to the tree to go and do that moment?
I did not.
Yeah, so I did as well.
It's a really simple moment. You literally just go and kneel by the tree and kneel there quietly for a minute.
Yeah.
And it's up to you how long you stay there. It's just sit and be a bit mournful for, like, this is a place that, you know, maybe just take a minute.
There's a dialogue. There is a little bit of dialogue where they say, like, we used to play here. Like, this is literally the spot that we used to play a certain game that we were playing. It's super strange to even know this now. So that was really interesting. And then you go down to the dock, and they do their memory powers, and the big reveal of who is Dad is shown to us, and dun 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 dun, it is Tom.
I mean, Tom was the reasonable person for it to be.
It makes sense.
I wasn't necessarily surprised, but I equally didn't feel like, obvious.
Yeah.
It was the right level of, it actually was you. Okay.
I actually got it in the beginning of the episode when Tom comes to visit, because I felt that was so unlike Tom. As somebody who plays the middleman is very distant.
Stays out everyone's business, doesn't like to get involved in anything. Why are you here?
Yeah, why is he here? And then he's asking me, oh, where's Tyler? And it's like, Tyler might be inside. You don't know. Why are you asking me where's Tyler? What does that have anything to do with you? Where that sort of hit it in my head, like, is he the father? He might be the father.
Yeah, because in hindsight, he's asking around because he's a bit concerned he's seen you snooping for several days.
Yeah, I understood it as well, and it was the right of, it was Tom, but it was a bit like, it was Tom. Okay.
Here's the thing, the reveal of who it was less interesting to me than the interaction that came afterwards and how Tom played out being confronted.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't mind that it wasn't super surprising because his actor played that confrontation scene really well.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. But yeah, it's they find out it's Tom. They both agree that Allison phones him and says, "Look, we've got him." Tyler's very much like, "Hey, he might not come. Like we know that." And she's like, "Oh, he'll come. He knows that he has to come. Otherwise, we're gonna tell everyone everything." Yeah. Between all this, we also, which we didn't mention, which was like that Tessa knew this whole time. She's known.
Yeah.
And again, I've had this bad relationship with Tessa. I was like, I'm not, because of the way she acted in the conversation with Tyler, I'm still on and remember mine was very much transphobic and just, you're an arsehole. I'm very much was like, I don't care. Like, I don't care about you. I don't care that you knew. But a part of me was like, you weren't a bad person. You just don't have you're just not with it the way you need to be.
That read very differently to me, realizing that she knew, because obviously I went back and watched that scene from episode 2, and yeah, she stops herself from being like, hey, look at someone like Sam whose relationship was married by your mother, and then stops herself and it's like,
Yeah.
she's going to mention Tom. I think it puts a really interesting light on how hard she tried to look after those kids.
Yeah.
If she knew that they were her husband's kids, because there's like all of the attempts to keep Marianne employed even when she wasn't doing a great job of it, the bringing around food, the actively, there's flashbacks where you see her like helping them with their homework at the table in the house. Like, she was trying to be an active supportive part of their lives, and in hindsight I wonder how much of that was, I feel an obligation to look after my husband's fuck up kids that he's not looking after. If he's not looking after them, I'll make sure they're okay.
Yeah.
That they might have felt somewhat like family as a result to her.
Yeah. Again, interesting. I'll bring it back to like me. I've got a half brother who's the exact same age as me, and my mum very much took care of him, where it wasn't quite reciprocated the other way. So I could totally see it from Tessa's point of view, where it's like, this is still family to me. No matter the circumstances, no matter how this has come about, this is family. And it was, that's what I mean. Like, it got to me where I was like, damn, I wish I didn't get the ending I got, because you're still a horrible person. But you did you did some great things. You were trying your hardest. But yeah, how much of it was just out of guilt? How much of
I
it?
don't even know out of guilt, just like obligation of some kind. Like I feel like some of it was, I resent that my husband is not fucking pulling his weight for his kids.
Yeah.
Like, if he's not going to do it, I'm gonna step up in his place.
Yeah, and for me, it also like paints why Tessa did what she did in terms of like telling social services, is like she's seen one parent be like completely like doesn't want anything to do with them, won't tell her about them, nothing, and then she's spending time with these kids and she's trying to do the best for them and trying to help Marianne, and then as it goes on, Marianne is just more and more messing up more and more, where it's like, okay, nobody's gonna take care of these kids, or what's gonna go on, like something needs to happen.
We had the conversation last time about like how big of a problem, and like it should always be a last resort to torture something like social services about kids. I can understand why in small town situation like that, look, she probably felt like she was looking after these kids more than their actual mum was. She was married to their dad. I do wonder if part of it was, you are not capable of looking after your kids. Look, these kids feel like they're kind of my kids at this point. They're my husband's kids.
Yeah.
I want to get you out of that situation because I want to see you in a better place, because like I feel you need that. Yeah, like how much of it was, I want to get you out of there because I feel like you're my kids.
I want the best for you, and I think it's that it comes back to the moment where she turns up at the police station as they're getting taken away. It's like she's there again. If you, I'm thinking them back, and I'm like, more and more, she's there.
Also, in hindsight, how did she know to go to the police station that night? Because her husband mentioned what he'd seen that night.
Yeah. Which makes sense, because if you talk to him, isn't he the one who says, news travels real fast around here?
Yeah.
Which is like, oh, yeah, sure, news travels real fast around here.
Yeah, news travels real fast if you see it happen and you spread the news.
Yeah.
So we get into, Tom turns up, and we get into a very heated discussion where the twins are obviously using their powers to talk to each other at this moment as well. Like, what should we do? How do we deal with this situation? And Tom tells... Go on, we can interject there.
Oh, Tom acts like such a fucking politician in this whole conversation. It's so much doublespeak, offloading responsibility, the whole, she'd have died sooner or later anyway, so it's not really my fault. I just panicked and burned down the I was nothing. I wasn't meant to hurt anyone.
Yeah.
It was like his trying to take credit for Tessa's like support food parcels.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, it wasn't my I didn't tell her not to, so really,
Yeah.
it's me.
I
who
was
looked out
supportive
for you."
of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not even supportive. He says, I didn't object to it. I
Yeah.
didn't object to her giving you food parcels. So really, I was actually a supportive dad all
You should
along.
thank me.
I hated him so much.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Mm.
That the actor who played Tom did a
He
fantastic
plays
job.
smarmy arsehole so well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic job. And yeah, for me it really tugged on me where I was just like punch him.
Yeah.
And
And
then
when-
Tyler comes out with, I really want to punch him. I'm like, go do it. Go punch
Is
him.
that going to be an option? Yeah.
But yeah, it's so yeah, Tom admits that he tried to burn down the barn. He admits that he knocked Tyler's unconscious. He panicked. But the big reveal here of this whole moment is him saying, hey, okay, I've done all this and I wasn't there for you. I wasn't a dad. I'm the worst. You're right. And if you go and say a single thing, I'm going to tell everyone the truth. I'm going to tell everyone what actually happened.
Yeah, so this is the whole, like, it feels like he's been holding this as an ace up his sleeve over the years to go, no one's ever going to catch me. I've got this hidden. And it's such a disingenuous way he brings it up, where he's like, it's clear he's just trying to protect his small town mayor political campaign, but he's like, no, I'm an adult who is respected in this community, and if you try and take me down, I'm going to tell everyone that no, she wasn't going to hurt you. You just murdered her for no reason.
Yeah.
Who believed Tom?
Yeah, so this is, I guess we're getting to, like, there's the choice we have to make at the end, which is, do you choose to remember this the way that you remember it or the way that Tom says it? I think Tom's version of events makes more sense.
It's the truth.
Yeah.
It's the truth.
I think it makes more sense. I don't want to give him the satisfaction of his, like, coming in and going, aha, but I got ya.
Yeah.
Aha, caught ya.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't want to give him the satisfaction, but I think his series of events makes more sense.
100%.
Yeah. Agreed.
It was that very heartbreaking moment for me where I was like, do I do what's best for... I even paused the game at this point because I didn't want it to time out or anything. And I was like, do I want to do what's best for the character's, like, mind and where I want her to be for the rest of her life? Or do I go with what I think is the truth? And at the end of the day, I had to go with what I thought was the truth. And the truth was, like you said, his story made way more sense. Way more sense.
If you play out both of them, my reading of it is like, either Tom is right. Marianne was probably going to go kill herself and no one else, which I think honestly makes more sense for Marianne as a character. Like, she fucking loved those kids. I don't think she's got it in her to go murder her children.
Agree.
She's watched a child die before she knows how tragic that
Agree.
is.
Yeah.
And like, it makes sense out of, she was caught about to do this and she panicked and went, I need to go make sure Tyler's okay.
Yeah.
He's just seen me with a shotgun. It doesn't necessarily explain, like, you could argue she should have put the shotgun down before chasing after her kid to reassure him. I can understand. Yeah. But, like, I don't see her as I was planning to murder suicide you all and you, because, like, there are moments she could have shot Tyler.
100%.
If that was the intention.
Yep.
She could have taken the shot earlier. I don't know. I think that the whole "I'm gonna kill you" was, as it was set up last episode, a memory of what she said to the Mad Hunter.
Yeah.
I think that Tom's right, but he's also an arsehole, and I don't want to let him waltz in and go, actually, you're a murderer for no reason. Fuck off. And like,
yeah. No, 100%.
For me, it's also like, I don't like the way they labeled those. They labeled it our memory and then Tyler's, our memory and then Tom's memory. Where when you're speaking about it with Allison constantly says, this is how I remember it. Where I feel like it would have been made more sense to label it Tyler and Allison.
She says, this is how I remember it now, after Tom has talked. And I understand the labeling from the perspective of, it is entirely possible that someone has told you a new version of events. Like, here's the thing. We've all said Tom's version of events makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And it could well just be, I feel really bad about what I did. Someone's presented me a version of events that makes a lot of logical sense.
Yeah.
Maybe that's right. It does make a lot of logical sense. oh shit, now I remember it that way now because memory is fallible. And can I just say, I love that for this game that's all about memory and has been building up since episode 1. People remember things differently and memory is fallible. I love that the final choice was a distillation of, do you go with what you remember or what makes most sense?
Yeah.
And that, like, I think Tyler says it when you're making this choice. As soon as you walk away from a moment and you're not living in that moment,
it's done.
You can't prove anything.
Yep.
You can only go with the evidence you have or the memory you have, and you have to commit to how you live it.
So did we all go with Tom?
I went with Tom.
I went with Tom on the first one.
I went with Tom as
and
well.
I hated myself for doing it, but I did it.
Yeah, no, I did exactly the same thing, and I hated myself as well.
I sat for a good 10 minutes.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I had that same moral quandary of, look, just because a series of events is very plausible doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah.
Sometimes people do things in life that don't make sense, and sometimes a neatly presented, everything makes sense story is just a bit too good to be true. And it is entirely possible that I have gaslit these two characters into accepting a false memory because someone presented a plausible series of events they might have spent a decade coming up with to
cover it. Yeah.
Yeah. I sat there torn between this makes sense, but do I want to tell these two people to ignore their memory because someone just told them something new?
You know, it was for me as well.
It was a really tough choice.
Yeah, it was so hard. But you know, the other thing for me was I still hold Tom responsible because he could have easily got in that water and got her out.
Yeah.
He ran away. He ran away from 2 kids. That's the thing. Is he has no real excuse why.
Not just 2 kids. He's 2 kids.
Yeah.
He created them.
Yeah. The mother of his children had a shotgun and was walking down the pier towards her son, and he just walked away and did nothing about it.
Yep.
Yeah. No. The problem I had with that choice really came down to I thought if you picked the one with Tom, that was Tom's memory, was, oh, Tom's gonna get away scot-free and nothing's gonna happen to him. Similar to you, Laura. It's just I don't know what I do there.
I've played both endings out, and my biggest disappointment is if you stick with your own memory, that there is no option to go, do we
expose
Tom and take the consequences, or do we let him go? That was a choice I expected was, do you bite the bullet and tell people what he did, knowing he's going to try and throw it back on you?
Yeah.
And that's not really a choice you're given.
So
I wish that was a choice.
What is the other choice then?
If you
so obviously you go with their own, and then so this all ends and you go 6 months in advance. For the way we played it out the first time, 6 months in advance, Tyler's cut his hair, they've just finished packing up the house. Is it all the same scenario with if you pick the other one?
It's the same core scenario. You have some little different bits of conversation. Depending on which you choose, I think it has an impact on whether Tyler decides to go with them and live with them.
Okay.
Whether they're living or not.
Yeah.
But largely, a lot of it's the same. It also, I believe, has an impact on whether the twins keep using their powers after this, or whether they give them up. I don't know how that played out for either of you.
Yeah.
I think that choice is also a factor in how that plays out.
I thought that would be a factor based on throughout the whole game, your experiences on whether you choose to align with each other and not just that.
Yes, and I'm saying it's not just that, but if you decide to stick with the memory that you have and ignore Tom's version of events, that is a thing that brings you closer in line with each other and
got it.
Impacts that.
So, did you all keep your powers?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I did too. It was really one of those weird moments where he's trying to have that moment. I'm out on the deck, relaxing, and she starts talking. I'm like, oh, they kept him after hearing Alison say, I may never use this again. It was one of those moments where I was like, oh, thank God you did heal and you did keep using them, which was nice. It was a nice moment.
Can I tell you the thing I dislike most about the ending of this game? I don't like Tyler's new haircut.
No, I hate it as well.
I preferred his old haircut,
I preferred his old haircut. I know, I get it, but he had such a good swoopy haircut.
Yep, I totally agree with you. There is one line during all of this game that I didn't like. and and again we've complimented the writing of most of this, and it's the moment between Tom and Allison, and when you're having a go at Tom as Allison, she's like, you need to man up, and I hate that. I hate man up, because for me it's a case of, what is manning up? Nah, I am very much someone that is, I'm always considered very soft and quite quote unquote feminine and stuff like that. And it's like, when I hear anybody say man up to me, I'm like, what is it you're insinuating? What?
I think it's very deliberate that Tyler's not the one to say that. Because,
Yes.
Like, everything we know about Tyler is that he's made a real effort. Like, there's that book in episode 1 he's got that's all about, like, learning masculinity without falling into the tropes of toxic masculinity, and, like, he would never say that.
Yeah.
Allison probably has not done that same legwork on learning not to, have, like, it's a little bit of a slightly sexist perspective that, yeah, she's not done the legwork to get to where Tyler would probably
I think
be on it.
as well, I live in a house where I'm like, I say any of that stuff to Haley and I'm like, what the hell are you saying? I'll knock you out. I'm like, good point, you will knock me out. So yeah, for me it was just like that line, like, of the whole game, where I feel like they did such a great job of, even when they were getting things quote unquote wrong, it was wrong for the right reasons for the story. That was the only line for me where I was like, why did she say that?
But
Allison isn't the character I would expect that out of.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
it would be weirder from Tyler, but, like, it's still, like, I wouldn't picture Allison saying
Yeah.
that.
I'm just kind of like whatever with it, only because I don't think any of the characters are perfect, and, like, that's not a great thing to say, but it is a moment of imperfection from Allison, and granted, we do get other ones. And
let me make it very clear, by the way, I'm sure I've said this, I'm sure I'll say it again, I'm sure it's not that I'm like, oh, up in arms, this is terrible, or nothing like that. It was just a case of, like, when it come out, it's like, hey, don't do that to him. Like, yeah, we hate him, cool, but don't do that to him. Like, as much as I'd rather you swear at him or call him the C word than, like, say that. Like, and those other words would have been way worse. But you know what I mean? It was just one of those little moments.
It was just unnecessary.
Yeah. So as Tyler, 6 months later, you've got a haircut. You walk through the house. You're taking pictures. You're sending them to Allison. There's a few emails. The game sort of wraps up of the journey has been done. Go on, Crush.
Did you guys see that Tom didn't become mayor?
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
That was a very happy moment. I was very glad.
Yeah, Tom didn't. Tom doesn't become mayor.
Not only does he not become mayor, Tessa leaves him as well.
Oh, what?
Yeah. Did Tessa not leave him for you, Fix?
Wait.
There was a letter from Tessa.
Where?
On the countertop.
Maybe I missed it. I don't think so.
Next to all the photographs in the kitchen that you could go pick up before you left.
I think when you have a conversation on the phone, I don't think
they were on worse terms.
We don't talk.
Yeah,
we don't
no.
like
There's
this
also
stuff.
it would make sense because you also have a conversation with Allison, and Allison mentions it if you talk about what happened with Tom.
I didn't get that.
But it would make sense because she wouldn't know because
we don't like
Tessa isn't talking to you guys.
If you're on better terms with Tessa, you find out that she left Tom. She was like, get the fuck out of here.
Damn. I don't think we missed anything else there. You just wander around the house. It's the empty house. It's saying goodbye to it, right?
A nice bit of scene setting as you leave.
Yeah, you find out that in the way I played that anyway, that they have all moved out together, and they seem happy. They seem happy. They seem to be doing okay. Tell me why, everybody.
They've all got work to do on themselves, but they found their answers and they're ready to move on with life. And I'm happy for them all.
Yeah.
So, that is the end of the spoiler cast. Here is our review, really, of Tell Me Why. Crash, what did you think of Tell Me Why as a full experience from episode 1 to episode 3, with it being about 9 hours long, I'd say? You could probably stretch it out to probably about 10 to 15.
It was a good 10. It was probably over 10.
Okay.
Yeah, probably like 12 if you stretch it out, because there's only like about half an hour in every chapter about that you can miss.
Yeah.
Because most of it's just like side content and examining stuff. It's not really anything that is too timely.
Yeah.
I really, really liked this game. I'm incredibly surprised by how much I liked it. I haven't been a fan of this type of game for a while with the why am I forgetting the name of the company?
Telltale.
Telltale. There we go. I kept thinking Telltales, and I kept in my head saying, "Tell me why." That's not the name of the company. Telltale. I haven't been a fan of it since then, you know. And so the way this game was, the way it's presented, and the way it is consistent throughout the whole experience, where you do have the dip in the middle, but the dip is more so a story aspect that you
Yeah.
can't really do away with, because that's how stories work. I just love everything. I think the art's really great in the game. I think the music's really great. The point of times where they decide to use the different musics and set different tones with it, I think is fantastic. I think the animations are great for the most part. I do think some of the lip syncing's off a little bit, but that doesn't really bother me too much because I wasn't expecting on point lip syncing throughout the whole thing. Overall, I think I was blown away by the experience I got in this game.
Laura, what was your overall thoughts?
I'm the sort of person that generally enjoys this as a genre. I like my heavy on the narrative, pick what you're gonna do adventure games, and tell me why I really enjoyed. I thought it was a really positive experience. I think the 3 episode length really was to this game's benefit. I think that as with all of these kind of games, there is a limit to how much your experience is going to branch. The specifics will branch, but you're ultimately going to reach the same sort of place. And I think that by having a shorter season, it made it less obvious how much of a funnel you were following, which I think is to the benefit of games like this. I think it's the best written thing Dontnod has done in terms of writing humans that feel like humans.
Yep.
I think they did a wonderful job with Tyler. I think that Tyler is going to stand for quite some time as a signpost for here is how you can do a trans character in a respectful way, and like managed to pull that off. It's not without critique, but it is a real good go at it. I thought that it did a fantastic job over its runtime of slowly humanizing character, like giving you one-dimensional villains in episode 1 to then flesh out and humanize later. Doesn't say that the things they did aren't bad, but it gives you context and understanding for how they got there. And I really enjoyed it. I hope we get more stuff like this. I hope that Microsoft continues to give money to Dontnod to do things like this. It was really nice to see what they could do with a proper budget behind them. It has just made me crave more of this kind of game. I love these kind of games.
Yeah, for me, it was one of those experiences, and like I said, I wanted to go in and live in somebody else's shoes, and it was so much more than just that for me, where it helped me live in other people's shoes and learn what they go through and how to speak correctly on certain manners, and it was just a great teachable game in certain times, but it did such a great job of, like we said, very much so, humanizing bad people a little bit more so than usual. Like, not all bad villains are just trying to end the world, right? Some people are just doing bad things. Tom isn't a great dad. And to see a story where a dad that is there, but you don't know that he's there, and just the way it all plays out in the end, we're talking about trans people, we're talking about panic attacks, we're talking about depression, we're talking about anxiety, we're talking about, there's so much packed into this game, and it does such a great job for me of how they explain each and every one of those scenarios. Again, not without its problems, I totally agree, but these are the type of games, I love The Walking Dead. I think The Walking Dead's a fantastic game, but you don't learn anything from it. It's a zombie epidemic, right? There's no teachable moments in there. There's like, be a little bit more compassionate to other people with Clementine and Lee. Where with like Tyler and Tessa and Tom and Allison and all of these, Michael, all these other characters, Marianne, it really does show you what you can do in a narrative-driven game beyond just the basics of what we've gotten thus far. I feel like this is the best narrative-driven game of its style. They're called walking simulators nowadays. That's kind of the category they get put into, right? I don't necessarily like that, but I understand why people call them. If you're looking to have an experience like these with these games, this is the best one for me. This is the best one.
I think there are other ones that I would point people to that, like, if you've enjoyed this, are worth trying. If you haven't, they're not necessarily going to be of the same consistency of quality, but I think there are things worth finding them. If you've not played Life is Strange 2, which was the last thing Don't Nod did,
Yeah.
it is a huge step up from the original Life is Strange in terms of the quality of its writing. It feels very timely and modern. I think that there is definitely stuff to be found in there. It's a bit more stretched out over 5 episodes, and it's a bit more reliant on its sci-fi stuff. The other one I would suggest is worth it if people can find it is Telltale's Borderlands game.
Tales from Borderlands.
Completely doesn't try to be a grounded story. It is, Tales from the Borderlands is just this weird, fun, silly, unreliable narrator, goofy adventure. I think they're both worth trying, but like, this one is very easy to recommend with no caveats, and that's what I'm really happy about. Is I have very little complaints to say about this when I tell people go try it.
I think the biggest compliment to this game is Don't Nod and their release schedule for it. Once a week, for 3 weeks, not missing dates, the game being done. This is how if you want there to be that feel good feeling for one of these type of games, or those TV moments, this is how you do it. It's keep 100%,
it 100%. I want this to be how narrative episodic adventure games are done from now on. Give me a 3-ish hour episode once a week. For 3 to 5 weeks.
I was just about to say, you could make this another 2 weeks and I would be fine with it, right? It is, you can extend it, but I need to get that story in a quicker manner than having to wait 3 months or more for another
episode
piece.
every 4.5 months.
It's too much.
Like Life is Strange 2, my biggest issue with it was it took 1.5 years for 5 episodes to come out. And every time one came out, I was like completely detached from the last one.
I think it helped doing this, so thank you both for joining me. It was that I haven't had a moment like this for a long time with a game where I knew every Wednesday we were going to come here, we were going to break it down, you were going to teach me something new, you were going to hear out my perspective on something, we were going to disagree, we're going to agree, and then we go on and wait for another week. So
it's been a while since there's been a game I've had 4.5 hours worth of stuff to say about the story in. So it's nice.
Well, I think that's just testament to the writing. Again, shout out to Don't Nods for the writing. Again, it ran well. Shout out to Microsoft for funding it. If I was Microsoft, I'd go and try and pick up Don't Nod just so they can keep putting out these experiences in Game Pass.
I quietly expect that to be an acquisition we hear about. Like, I think, because Don't Nod has a game coming out in the near future that isn't one of these choice-based adventure games. It's something about a mirror. I forget what it's called. Twin Mirror?
Twin Mirror, that's the one,
I fully expect once Twin Mirror is done and released, I think we hear about a Microsoft acquisition.
Again,
this
obviously,
is the size and scope of company that I think Microsoft could afford to just scoop up and do cool shit with.
I just think the people I've been streaming it, and I know you've been streaming it as well, and it's the people that come in and say, "Oh, what is this game?" You instantly explain it, and you go, "Oh, it's on Game Pass." Everyone's like, "Oh, cool, I'll check it out." It's the perfect platform for these type of games, Game Pass.
Microsoft has clearly had their eyes on Don't Nod for a while. Like, Life is Strange 2 started with a little thing called The Adventures of Captain Spirit. That got showtime at Microsoft's E3 conference a couple of years ago. Like, they clearly know that Don't Nod makes some special stuff, and I'm glad to see them fostering that.
I hope they keep doing it. I hope they keep pushing the medium forward. I hope they keep telling stories from people we don't hear from regularly. And anything you guys want to add to the end of this? No.
Just keep making more games like this, please.
Let's plug, and get ourselves out of here. Laura, where can people find you?
You can find me at Laura K Buzz on all of the social media platforms: Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Patreon. I stream on Twitch Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 10 PM UK, 5 PM Eastern, 2 PM Pacific. Every Friday on YouTube, I upload episodes of Accessibility, which is a show about the video game industry, accessibility, and representation. This week's episode is about audio descriptions, which very few weird omissions that The Last of Us 2's accessibility options had, and are sort of a standard in movies, but video games haven't really picked up on. Other than that, just Laura K Buzz everywhere. I do a bunch of stuff. LauraKBuzz.com has links to everything I do.
Cool.
Check there.
Do it. Crash, where can people find you?
At Crushnick Plays on Twitter. That's it.
Not coming back to Twitch anytime soon, no?
I don't I don't stream consistently enough for me to plug it in. I feel.
I
know?
respect you. I respect you. You can find me everywhere at MCFixer. If you enjoyed this conversation, if you haven't watched it and you're not watching live in the Twitch chat right now, head over to youtube.com/myxboxandme, where you can check out episode 1, you can check out episode 2, and now episode 3 will be up there as well. This has been an honor to do it with you guys, and I really love doing spoilery content like we've done. So I hope we can do it again soon with a game that we all want to do it with. And until next time, I will love you, leave you, and see you all later. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.